Hey, what's going on, everybody? So I'm on my way home and decided to do a video. Something I noticed while I was at the gym. So while I was at the gym, I noticed there's this guy. It's kind of heavier set, but that's not why I noticed what I noticed. I saw he had a inhaler beside him, and it reminded me, I have asthma, and it's kind of like anxiety triggered. And I've only had one asthma attack before. When I was really young, it was my first football practice ever. I was like eighth grade and never played football in my life. Didn't really know much about it. And of course, playing with these, I was going to a school in the country, so all these country kids, are a little bit bigger than I was. I was a twig, so I broke my arm both years I played. So, anyways. But I had an asthma attack the first practice, and I remember, I thinking I was gonna die because I couldn't breathe. I'd never been in a situation like that, and actually I did have two asthma attacks. The second one, so for those who don't know, I was in the military, and when I was at boot camp, we were all outside on the blacktop, getting roasted by these training instructors who were meant to break us down and get the best of us, because we were doing the push-ups and sit-ups and everything, and they were just hammering us, and kids left and right were falling down and running out of breath. And I remember I was so anxious because I'd never, somebody's yelling at your face, you're out of breath, and you're doing push-ups, like that triggers your anxiety real quick. Afraid to mess up, and you don't want to, they tell you if you don't do it right, you go to jail or something, like, they just put fear in you. And so anyways, I had to go down on one knee, and I was running out of breath, gasping for air. And luckily all the out of shape people were doing it too, but it was because they're out of shape, not because they were about to have an asthma attack like I was. And I was able to play it off like I was tired, and they didn't really pick on me too much because there were so many other kids and people who, I say kids, but there's so many other people who were kneeling down because they were exhausted. I was able to blend in and survive that moment by calming myself down and realizing, like, hey, I don't want to start over, because what happens is if you go into what's called a med hold, you would restart basic training with a whole new group of guys. I was with 60 guys, and we all became like brothers. So I didn't want to have to do that shit. And so I just started doing what I used to do when I had my first one, and had deep breaths, start taking deep breaths. And man, I just there's no fear like not being able to breathe in a situation where nobody's going to feel sorry for you. You really have no out. I'm sure I could have passed out and done all that, but I felt like that was more painful than the pain of not being able to breathe right now, because I didn't want to have to start all over and do this shit again. So when I saw that inhaler, it reminded me of that, and it reminded me of other moments when my back was against the wall, and I thought, man, I don't know how I'm going to make it through the day, and how I'm going to see it past this point. And another point I had was I attended it's called a SERE for Air Force. You can look it up, SERE. I attended that, and it's 1 month training. They go and teach you how to deal with interrogations. You get held captive, prisoner of war, and things like that. And man, it really messes with your minds. For a lot of guys, it didn't bother them, because a lot of people, you pretty much pass unless you're a dumbass. But for me, I really immersed myself in like the environments that I'm in. So I took the training like the real thing, and man, I tell you what, that was one of the hardest trainings I've ever been through. And if you look into it at all, you'll know, like, it's no joke. All the pilots have to go through it, so they know what to do and whatnot. And that was another time that I was kind of like, my back was against the wall, didn't know what to do, things like that. And one more example I'll give is I was deathly scared to speak publicly in school. When I was little, I don't know what happened, but I used to be very, outgoing, very, in your face. But when high school came around, I was scared to death to talk in front of people, to stand out. And I remember having a presentation in front of the class where I had to speak for like 2 minutes, and I was gasping for air. My face would turn blood red, and I would be so embarrassed, and I just felt like very less than everybody else because of it. And of course, I joined the military, and one of the things they do is they volunteer you to do stuff. So it's like voluntold is what we called it. I kind of did volunteer for this one, but I became an instructor, and I was kind of an augmentee of these SEER guys, teaching the pilots a refresher course on how to survive if they crash. I teach them how to, find sustenance like water, food, things like that, how to make shelters. It was a really cool experience, but I would be teaching for like anywhere from 2 to 4 hours a day. And when you're teaching for that long at one time, you get over the fear pretty quickly. And that's kind of where I started to learn, like, hey, yeah, these things suck at the beginning, and I avoided them like crazy. And I remember just like trying to push off the point of when I taught my first class. I was delaying it so much. I was like, yeah, I don't get the course, I'm not ready to teach them, and making excuses. And then I finally got voluntold to do it, and after about the first week, honestly, and the first couple hours, I got over the fear, and it became like normal for me. And now I don't have a problem speaking publicly. I get more excited than anything, and my shortness of breath, because it comes from being excited about talking what I'm talking about. So it's a whole different experience now. And I want you guys to know, if you're going through anything like that, especially with wholesaling real estate, I had the same thing happen to me when I started out. I was like, I was named #1 in my career field for the Air Force in my at my rank. So basically, 1 out of like 10,000 people, I was #1, and that's a pretty prestigious award. Like, it would be something that would set me up for my entire career if I would have stayed in. I'm not the one saying this to brag, but to let you know, like, when I got out of the military and I decided to jump headfirst into real estate with no income coming in, I had to start all over from ground zero at the bottom. And that was one of the biggest psychological things that I had to go through, because there's nothing like being at the top, right? Or at least feeling like you're at the top, and then sacrificing that to go all the way back to the bottom and not knowing anything, and putting yourself back at square one and learning everything brand new. I used to hate that feeling. I was like, man, I was so good at what I did, and now I don't know anything. And so I took it one day at a time. And looking back now, I couldn't believe the amount of stuff I've learned in the last 2 years, in the long 2 years that I've had. It's unbelievable. By putting myself in situations where I'm forced to learn and grow, I've not only been able to achieve more, but I've grown more in these past 2 years, I think, than I have in these past 10 years, before that. And I think that's pretty powerful advice, pretty incredible stuff. And I wanted to share that with you, because one of the things Jim Rohn talks about is making sure that you're putting yourself in groups and environments where you're going to be constantly forced to grow. Like, they're not going to be accepting or make you comfortable where you're at. They're not going to say, oh, that's okay, bro, you're doing the best you can. No, they're like, you need to fucking get your shit together, and you need to get better. That's what you were doing last week, right? Who cares what you did last week, last year, 10 years ago? What achievements you have, right? Yeah, I did a 65K deal, but you know how long that felt good for? About an hour. After that hour, I was like, shit, now I got to do something else. I've obtained more money than I've ever obtained before at that point, but now I got to keep it going. And if you're chasing that goal or whatever, it's never going to end once you achieve it. You got to constantly set the bar higher and higher, and it requires sometimes be in situations where your back's against the wall. And look at it like this: you don't deserve the success unless you've been through the trials and tribulations of failure, and of just having your back against the wall. Because you wouldn't want somebody else to just casually come along, and it's not that you wouldn't want them to, but it's not deserved, right? And life understands that, and life treats you and drags you through the mud to make sure you're ready and you're battle tested to handle this new life that you're taking on, because things will ebb and flow just like this very, very quickly. And if you're not equipped to handle that, you're in it for a rude awakening, and it could ruin people's lives and your dreams even. And that's what happens to some people. They commit to it, not 100% mentally, and once they get into it, man, they ruin themselves because they think it's not possible, because they made a mistake and they quit instead of keep going and keep going. And I don't know if you've ever seen the picture of the miner who is, one miner is up top and he's mining for the diamond, and he's almost there, and just before he gets to the diamond he quits, and then the miner below, he keeps going and he finds the diamond that the other guy, missed out on. So you could be just right there, you could be right on, the next the next day could have been it, but you gave up. So the secret to success, guys, I think, is to be able to withstand anything that comes at you and to keep going. And that's not what anybody's teaching you out there, right? They're teaching you got to have the secret techniques, the secret tricks. Yeah, those things definitely help you 10x your results, right? Because they've done it before, and that's where having a mentor or somebody with experience comes in to play, and that's how you're able to grow even quicker. But you don't need that to start. You don't need that to get where you need to go, right? Make those mistakes. Say some dumb shit on the phone with the seller for the first time. Go out there and mess up that phone call. Try to get that phone call back. Try to get that seller back after you mess up. See what happens. And after you do that over and over, you start to notice behavioral patterns with these sellers or with whatever you're trying to achieve, whether it's sales or whatever. You start to notice that every customer you come into contact with either has the same objections or they have the same behavioral patterns where, they're all saying the same thing, and they go into a category like not motivated, motivated, possibly motivated, and what to do in each situation. Document the journey, document what you're doing so you can look back in 6 months and say, hey, I remember when I thought I couldn't figure out whether they're motivated. Now I can, and now I'm starting to realize when I say certain things, they react a certain way or they get turned off a certain way. And how can I get over that? Or how can I move past that objection? You research it and you network, and boom, boom, boom. And like, you're just learning and growing. Go for failure. That's why I said it doesn't matter if you have all the answers. In fact, I'd rather you go out there with no experience saying, hey, I'm a wholesaler and I want to wholesale your house. And right off the bat, you're going to know right away they're not going to want to deal with you because they don't know what the hell that is. They don't care. And you just realize that's not the way to go about it. So you go and research, you're like, oh shit, I should have said I want to buy your house instead of I'm a wholesaler. And it's a very elementary example, but I hope that helps. And I hope my story inspires you. And I hope you're able to, relate to that story in your own way of things that you've overcome and things that you've had to humble yourself and, kind of beat yourself up to the point where you're down to the ground level again and you have to start all over. Sometimes that's what it takes. So if you guys found value, motivation, or any kind of inspiration from this video, please give me a thumbs up. Be sure to subscribe to my videos and turn the notification bell on. That way you can see all my new videos, my motivational and wholesaling stuff, because I'm going to be packing a lot of information into these videos, and it's going to be free for right now. So at some point in the future, in the near future, I will be charging for this, maybe whether it's a package or something like that. But right now, I just want to share my wealth of knowledge with you. So take advantage of it. I'm telling you, take advantage of it. And then be sure to comment any questions, concerns, or anything you have in the below section, and I'll try to respond if I can, and even make a video on the subjects that you're mentioning. So thank you all, and you can also follow me on Instagram at the_Harshman. So the_Harshman, just like my YouTube channel, except for my YouTube channel doesn't have the underscore. So easy enough, right? Y'all do great. Have a great weekend, and we'll see you in the next one.